Howie Roseman has made another trade, this time at the quarterback position. The Eagles acquiring quarterback Sam Howell from the Minnesota Vikings in exchange for some draft capital. So we're going to break down the trade, what it means for this Eagles team and this Eagles quarterback room. But before we do, make sure to hit that sub button. Whenever there's breaking news like this, we got you guys covered right here on Eagles Now. Even when Chase Senior isn't able to hop on the mic, I got your producer Chip coming in with a video. So subscribe and turn on those notifications. So the trade details here: Philly getting Sam Howell and a 2026 6th-round pick, sending the Vikings a 2026 5th-round pick and a 2027 7th-round pick. So just swapping some picks there and bringing in Sam Howell. Now, why did the Eagles make this move, right? Why are they bringing in another quarterback when they already have, of course, Jalen Hurts, Tanner McKee, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Kyle McCord? Well, a lot of it has to do with the finger injury to Tanner McKee. He has not practiced since Tuesday, and he was seen on the sideline of the preseason game with that hand in his pocket, that right hand with that finger that he injured in his pocket, was doing everything with his left hand. So this tells me that the Eagles are a little bit concerned that Tanner McKee is going to miss some time as we enter the regular season. And look, of course, you have Jalen Hurts. He's awesome. He's your starter. But you always want to have a backup that you feel comfortable can go out there and win you some games, especially this Eagles team, their long history and storied history of having good backup quarterbacks. And Tanner McKee, really since his first preseason game, has looked like one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think today is the best backup quarterback in the NFL. It can start on a handful of other teams. But with where he's at right now with this injury, you look at the room behind him right now. And we've seen both Kyle McCord and Dorian Thompson-Robinson throughout the preseason, and neither of them have really particularly impressed. I think Kyle McCord has been a little bit better than DTR. We saw McCord in that final preseason game. He had some flashes. He had his ups and downs, but clearly the Eagles do not feel comfortable heading into the season with potentially Kyle McCord or Dorian Thompson-Robinson as their backup quarterback. I don't think you want either of those guys at this point taking meaningful snaps for this Eagles team heading into 2025. And so Howie now looks at the situation, says, man, you know what, this McKee finger injury could cause him to miss a good chunk of the season. So let's go out and let's make a move. Now, an interesting part of this trade here with Minnesota, and the reason that they are willing to deal out Sam Howell, who we will discuss here in just a moment, the Vikings are actually signing Carson Wentz to kind of replace him in this situation. Just a funny note there with, of course, his history with the Eagles. So Howell now comes in. So what does this mean? First, with the Eagles 53-man roster, because roster cutdown day is this Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. How many quarterbacks will the Eagles keep on the roster? We'll see what they do with Tanner McKee. Does he go on PUP or short-term IR? Is the injury that severe? The fact that they're trading for another backup quarterback here could indicate that, right? So maybe they put him on either PUP or short-term IR. But if they don't, right, and you obviously have Hurts, you have now Howell, you have McKee, what does that mean for both DTR and Kyle McCord? I think DTR probably going to get cut here. He didn't play in that last preseason game, right? They got an extended look at Kyle McCord. I think it's pretty obvious that he right now is going to make the team in some capacity over DTR. But will they keep McCord on the 53-man roster? Because if you want to bring him back on the practice squad, I think, sure, that's the ideal scenario, is that you cut him, he passes through waivers, and you bring him back to the practice squad. But is there another team out there that would be looking at McCord and say, you know what, we would love to bring him in to this roster? So cutting him and waiving him would open the door for another team to possibly bring him in. That's a risk for Philadelphia if they really do want to keep him. So could they keep 4 quarterbacks on this 53? It's a possibility. We'll have to, again, see what the severity is of this McKee injury. All the updates we've really gotten so far from Nick Sirianni is that McKee is dealing with it. It's a finger injury, and he has not practiced since Tuesday. So that will be something to monitor as we approach roster cutdown day here in just a couple of days. So let's get to Sam Howell. Really quick before we do, I want you guys to get in the comments section. Give me your one-word reaction to this Sam Howell trade. So let's get to the player the Eagles are trading for, Sam Howell. Of course, was a fifth-round pick back in the 2022 NFL Draft by the Washington Commanders out of North Carolina, where he had a pretty good career, but obviously not quite good enough to push him up in that NFL Draft. And look, since he was drafted, spent 2 seasons in Washington, 1 season in Seattle as the backup quarterback there, and of course was with the Vikings this offseason before they have now sent him out to Philadelphia. So look, I don't think there's really a world, barring a Jalen Hurts injury, knock on wood here, that we see Howell really play for this Eagles team. But a big aspect of this trade as well, though, we have to talk about before we get too deep onto Sam Howell here. Yes, the finger injury for Tanner McKee, but also the idea that Tanner McKee has been so good, I think he could start on some other teams in the NFL, right? And I think some other NFL teams think that as well, because there is some trade interest on Tanner McKee. So, yes, this trade covers them with the McKee finger injury, but the Eagles, they love Tanner McKee. They know how valuable he is, how good he is to this team. But if you can get a high draft pick for a backup quarterback, at some point you got to determine what the value is there. Because McKee's never going to start for you, right? You always have Jalen Hurts on this team. If a team offers a second-round pick for Tanner McKee or a second plus more, man, it'd be difficult to say no to a deal like that when he is, at the end of the day, your backup quarterback, even if that position is very valuable. So getting Howell on board this roster does give you some flexibility and optionality to trade Tanner McKee at some point if a team does come in with a big offer. So I don't think they trade him right now. I think this is mostly for the finger injury, but it is something to monitor because of his play and how good he has been, and other teams always looking for more talent at that quarterback spot. But again, Sam Howell, really only 1 season of a lot of play for him in Washington. It was the 2023 season where he started all 17 games. Was not pretty, right? Went 4-13, 63% completion, 21 touchdowns, also 21 interceptions, and was sacked 65 times in that season. Obviously, part of that's in the offensive line, but a lot of that is also on Sam Howell, just running into sacks, not getting rid of the ball right, not playing smart football. That can also be seen by the 21 interceptions he has thrown. But look, we know this Eagles team, they're confident in their developmental system, and Howell, still a relatively young quarterback, right? Going to turn 25 here on September 16th. So you get another guy in here who, has been around the league a little bit, already 3 teams if you count the Vikings, even though he didn't play for them in his short career, and 20 games under his belt, but not a whole lot of high-end play in his career. 22 touchdowns to 23 interceptions, 4,100 yards across those 20 games. Some of that they saw, they were familiar with a little bit when Washington did play Philly during that year, and he played well, I think, actually, against Philadelphia in at least one of the games in that season, if I am remembering correctly. So that might have to do a little bit as well why they're making this trade. He has some tools, right? Has some physical abilities, but has never really been able to kind of put it all together in terms of the speed of the NFL game. And, I think coming into a situation with Philadelphia, obviously a much better situation than he had with Washington back during the 2023 season, right? With this offensive line, with these weapons, you kind of just had to play point guard. And we've kind of seen that with Tanner McKee, right? Although he also, I think, has gone above and beyond that. But especially at the beginning of his career, just play that point guard position, make those good throws, make those good reads. You're going to have good protection, so you'll have the time. The thing with Howell is, don't get sped up too quickly. You see the rush coming in, don't bail out of there so fast. See if you can stay in the pocket, stay in there, make something happen with, he has a pretty talented arm, and I think can do a little bit on the ground as well. So he's going to be most likely the backup quarterback as we enter the season. Again, we will see what happens with Tanner McKee And if we do get an official update on that injury, what the timeline is for him, I'm just going to make sure before we hop on out of here that there hasn't been an official update on that timeline. And I think at this point, we have not had anything quite as of yet. But again, I think it's pretty telling that they make this move. You have to figure he'll be out at least for 3-4 weeks, maybe even more, as we get into the start of the NFL season. So just giving up a couple late round draft picks to be able to bring someone in that gives you insurance for Tanner McKee. Because again, I just don't think you're really ready at this point to start a Kyle McCord or a DTR. So DTR probably going to get cut, and we will see what happens here with Kyle McCord. I imagine they want him on the roster, but had some pretty underwhelming preseason games. And are you going to keep 4 quarterbacks? I really doubt it. All right, that'll do it for today's breaking news edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now. I want you guys to get down in the comment section for me. I already asked you for your one-word reaction to this trade. Now grade the trade for me. Again, those details, it was Sam Howell and a 2026 6th to Philadelphia in exchange for a 2026 5th and a 2027 7th. So grade the trade A, B, C, D, or F. Appreciate you all for tuning in to today's show. Again, don't forget to hit that sub button, and we'll catch you next time right here on Eagles Now.